man, it is another day, another dollar, another show. I'm super freaking excited because we have the one and only Dale Peterson coming on the show to talk about his new series that will be coming out. But I'm super excited to talk to him about his music video career, where he's worked with Alice in Chains, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and a couple other huge bands that you may know.
Yeah, and it's good to get those type interviews out there because I don't think that people realize enough where some of these like huge filmmakers get their starts, and a lot of them find the beginning in music and in music videos. Yeah. It's so awesome to hear his story about how he correlated it into his career. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited about it, but that's going to be later on the show. Now, let's get a little crazy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm, ITCAF podcast for short. Yes. You guys know your host with the most, myself, J-Lo Fantastic, and the one and only Mouth.
What's up?
Boy, oh boy, we're super excited about this week's show. But before we tease any of it, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast, comment below, and tell us what you actually think about the show, because leaving a rating actually helps the podcast get seen by more people who love entertainment news and those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry, even right now when it's a little hard with all these freaking strikes going on. But trust me, we're going to be talking all about that. We actually have a special guest host this week, Jared Becker. He's going to come on and talk about the strike and talk about his inside perspective of it, because he is a SAG-AFTRA member, but he's also got his own production company and he's working on a few things. So we're going to get the inside on what's going on and how he feels about everything going on and how he feels moving forward. So I'm really excited about that.
For sure.
But before we get this thing started, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We got shirts, we got hats, we got teddy bears, we got coffee mugs, tumblers. We have tote bags for those beach days, because I know it's hot outside and I know you're going to the beach. So get yourself a nice Crazy Ant beach bag. Definitely needed. Right now, we have a free shipping offer promo that is on our website. That's why you have to go to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, and take advantage of that free shipping. And you have to follow us at Crazy Ant Media and at ITCAF Podcast to know when we have these promotional sales. It's very freaking important. And we're anywhere and everywhere on social media, so that's where you can find us.
Oh, yeah.
But going into the industry news, of course, we're going to be talking about the strike first. Duh. It's the biggest thing happening in Hollywood. Not only is it the WGA, but as we reported last week, SAG-AFTRA is now on strike as well. Now, it's day 7 for SAG, and it's day 80 for the writers. Now, like I teased earlier, we have our friend Jared Becker joining us for this week to chat all about it. Hey, buddy, how's it going? We're super excited to have you back on the show.
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Man, we are living the dream, just trying to figure out this world that we're living in right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many things. It's like, how do we figure out which road to go? Oh my gosh.
Literally. The difficulty of trying to stay busy, but not trying to stay too busy because we don't want to cross any boundaries or anything. But we're super excited to have you on the show today because you are our first actor, producer, and writer to come on the show since the strike has happened. And we'll just dive right in and talk all about it, because I know you've been very vocal about all of this stuff on social media, specifically with some AI stuff that possibly came across your path that you've are luckily enough not been able to, or not gone down. So let's start there. Like, so what are you feeling in your everyday life right now?
I'm so frustrated. It's well, because we have so many projects in development and pre-production, and then as soon as that the strike authorization went through, and even prior, because we have our director is part of SAG's Next Gen committee. Right, so we've been getting updates the whole time and hearing how AI is coming through and what studio executives are wanting to do, which, again, is its own problem. But for our project specifically, I'm like, okay, how do we not stop? How can we keep going? And it's been a little frustrating. But we've thankfully been able to move forward because interim agreement and just really abiding by it, because there's a lot of misconception about it being a waiver and that SAG's giving waivers to people, and that's not the case. It is an interim agreement, and in order for a production to be granted that agreement, they have to comply with the proposals that SAG is provided.
Right.
Which those are what's being proposed to AMPTP. So if A24 can abide by this proposal and this agreement, then there's no reason everyone else can't. But I'll kind of save the energy on that one for a second. But yeah, we're doing well with our projects. We've got a lot going forward.
Yeah, and so. I think unfortunately the trades are playing heavily into this miscommunication of what it is or is not, because they're calling it waivers, right? And that is, like you said, it's incorrect. And it's an interim agreement. And if you look at it in detail, you do. And it even says in the interim agreement that once the strike is resolved, your contract it converts to the new guidelines and the new rules under those stipulations that you are agreeing to. So you're automatically locked into these new guidelines based on this contract. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And then the other thing is that I also don't think that enough people are aware of, that there are several contracts that SAG offers that weren't included in the strike to begin with, that you don't need an interim agreement for, that still allow you to work on certain projects. Those are all available at SAG's website, the SAG-AFTRA.org, and you can go into and find out what those are. And so we, like we had a bunch of stuff going on too that came to a grinding halt until we're trying to figure out what we can do or can't do and all this stuff. And I want to talk about this a little bit too, because we're running into this problem, and I don't know how it is for you, but we're running into the problem of, we were supposed to actually be shooting in Georgia next weekend, like next week. Wow. Yeah. And so the problem that we were running into is, even with being underneath the short project agreement, the SPA agreement, and being allowed to work and allowed to do it, we're having a hard time crewing up. And even our actors, both SAG and non-union, that were attached to our project, they don't feel comfortable working because they don't want to somehow give the impression that they're willing to cross the line. And so we're running into the problem of crewing up and getting people to actually work on it, even though they're allowed to work on it. Talk about that a little bit. Are you finding that also to be the case, where it's a little bit frustrating that even though you have permission, some people are just so morally set against going over the line and it's causing problems?
Right. So it's so funny. I had a call about this earlier today. A friend of mine from Sacramento reached out because their production is moving forward, and it's a SPA agreement, and trying to figure out their actors and how to do it. So the thing that I've dealt with, because I'm so grateful that I'm at this opportunity or point in my career, thanks to you guys at Crazy Ant Farm. So I appreciate that, of getting me my jump start, is I'm dealing with people at the level of like Mark Ruffalo.
Right.
And these big names. And so even them, there's like, oh, let's support indie projects.
Right.
Let's do this. So we've had to deal with some talent, or I've talked to some people who were very much like, well, we don't want to cross the picket line. And I was like, let's define what the picket line is. And that's what I'm doing. Because I'm on this film I'm doing in the fall that we're hopefully announcing soon. It's just we're not trying to like get burnt because of the strike. I'm producing that and starring in it. And so it's the talent we have. It's reassuring. It's like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we have. SAG is not striking against the actors. They're not striking against indie projects. They're striking against AMPTP and larger studios who have been taking advantage of people with an old system in a new modern world. So it's really just defining what are the do's and don'ts, what you can and can't do for your projects. But yeah, I mean, I get it with actors and being like, hey, we're going to look bad, or it's a publicity thing. It's like, no, you get to be the face of independent work.
Right.
Which is the new wave coming through. Like, this is the time to go get your A-listers. To go get them. Because I've talked with a lot of people's management today and be like, hey, we've got this film. It's it's a multi-million-dollar project. We're 80% funded. Do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, we want to work independently.
Right.
And I was like, great. So if, these A-list names are like, let's do it, other people should be able to.
Yeah. I mean, when all of this first broke and when this all started coming out, and you have people like Bob Odenkirk and all of these other A-list celebrities who are making public statements about, even if there is these stipulations, you still shouldn't cross the line. Did you have any sort of anxiety or any sort of second guesses when you were moving forward with this stuff?
I I did in two different perspectives, and I apologize for the delay. My mom was calling, but
You're fine.
so one, looking at it as an actor, I get it, 100%.
Right.
I'm like, you're not going to screw us over. You get your money from the work that actors and writers and other creatives do. It's time for your fair share. On the producing side of it, I was like, how do we go forward with respecting everybody's decisions and what they want? And then luckily SAG came through and they're like, hey, which here's the thing, they had the same waivers in the early 2000s.
Right.
It was a waiver.
Yeah.
And so they're bringing that back. It's like, here's the interim agreement. If you can comply with this, you are good to go. It's like, great, we can comply. But yeah, I had a lot of anxiety. I have anxiety right now.
And then I like that. Yeah, I liked that you said the word respect, right? Because it is still a balancing act. Because no matter how much people understand the agreements and understand the moving forward and the willingness and wanting to be a part of indie and these, you are still going to have those people that say, not for me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna ride this out. And you have to balance that. You have to respect their decision and say, we completely got you. We're good. Hopefully we can work together in the future. This is a thing that if this is how you stand, we're right there with you and we agree with you and all behind you. So it's finding that balance going. And I hope that you can respect me for wanting to do what I'm doing moving forward and that it doesn't, affect you working with me in the future because I chose to work on this. It's that balancing act. But our industry is always like that. It's always a balancing act of finding the right mix of, and cooperation with and the right people at the right time. And it's always like that. So this is nothing new. It's just a little bit different course to try to navigate it. But it is what it is. And I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on, though, with the fight. Because it's ridiculous that most people, and I ranted on this for quite a while about the misconception that everybody has that if you are in the entertainment industry, you are somehow automatically wealthy and that you are jumping on private planes. And I went off on this. I'm like, the fact that 87% of both these unions don't qualify for their benefits because they don't make enough money, meaning they don't get enough work to qualify for their benefits, is insane. I even broke it down hourly, and it works out to something like, with the amount of time that people actually put in on a set, actors, it's not an 8-hour day, right? So I broke it down. It works out to like $8.34 an hour. There are people flipping burgers that are making more than actors starring in high property shows or films, right? Yep. That's insane. The idea that is okay is ridiculous. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later in our industry news, but Netflix just came out and says, hey, we just made $1 billion something in profit this last quarter. And then they're on the flip side, they're trying to claim they don't have enough money to meet what the actors are asking for. Yeah. It's like, so you're bragging about the $1.5 billion quarter profit, not annual, quarter, but you don't have enough money. They're only asking for $600 million total, and you just made twice that in a quarter, and you're just one studio, but you don't have the money. And then, of course, you've got all these executives out there trying to save face because of the quote coming out about we're going to keep them out there until they're homeless. Now they're all out at every event and every opportunity to say, we want to get back to the table. We never wanted to strike. We want to do a deal. Exactly my point. It's like you can say that, but the fact is you've refused to talk for 79 days now with the writers. And so you're saying you want to go back to the table, but you're not. And what is the point of going back to the table if you're immediately going to say no to everything that is being asked for? There's no point. So
there was one instance I wanted to bring up because I believe it was Jessica Chastain said that the majority of working class actors make less than $26,000 a year.
Right.
I feel like that that number is very crucial. And as somebody who is on the inside, who is a SAG-AFTRA member, right now we're in day 7 and we're in day 80 for the WGA. The last WGA strike lasted 100 days, so we have 20 more days to go from the last one. And so how long do you think this is going to last? Because a lot of people are saying roughly around like 3 months for SAG-AFTRA. But I'm terrified. Yeah. I'm terrified.
I see it wrapping up. I can see them getting back to the table in August.
Yeah.
And really figuring it out, because not you as in you guys, but in general, it's costing, what was the number that came out? Was it 30 million a day that LA alone is being affected by halted productions?
That's
because
right.
I had the pleasure of sitting with a bunch of economists over the weekend talking about what are the outer layer effects. So not only are you shutting down production, you're shutting down craft services, any set designers, and there's just the trickle effect.
Well, and let's go even outside of that. Like in Georgia or places outside of California where film production brings in, and those people are staying at hotels and eating at restaurants. So those local economies are suffering because those productions have been shut down. And you're right, it is $30 million a day for like overall that it's costing the state of California. But the studios themselves, and this is why I don't think it's going to last until the end of the fall either. The studios themselves, in a recent report I just saw came out, they're losing $650,000 per day per film that's been shut down. Some of these studios had, 10, 12 films into production that are now shut down. 650,000 times 12, they're losing a significant chunk of money per day by not shooting, because they're having to hold those sets, they're having to hold those locations, and they're continuously paying for those. So they like to say that the actors and writers can't hold out financially. Let's be realistic about it. The studios cannot hold out financially at that pace. They're going to start feeling the pinch. They're already losing money off of streamers, and I wish they would just come out with the numbers to prove that. I feel like they're accurate with that. And when they tell the actors and the writers, we're struggling on the streaming side, and that's why we're hesitant to pay you, there's proof of that. They just won't release it. They won't give the numbers. And I feel like if you would just be transparent and come out with your numbers, you might get a little bit more leeway from the other side, because they would see that you are overall, big picture, losing money on your streaming platforms, and will be for the next decade. It's just how the infrastructure came. They came too quick, too fast, and it's not making money. It's not profitable.
Well, and it's not just streamers too. I mean, the blockbusters. They're definitely, all studios are taking baths on blockbusters right now. So that's also something that
film festivals.
Right.
A studio executive came out and said, and I it's something along the lines of, your festivals are basically fucked, because how do you promote a movie without stars? Like, you can't.
No.
They can, loopholes. They can walk carpet. They just can't do any press about it.
Right.
You're not going to get that.
No.
I'm not going to fly somewhere just to walk.
No. Yeah, no.
It's a disaster. I see them getting back to the table in August, and then being done at the end of August. They're losing too much money.
Well, and here's the thing.
Disney stock price down to $86 a share from 200 something.
Oh, don't talk to me about Disney as a shareholder. I'm mighty upset. But I'm not a happy camper. I don't even want to discuss how much I've lost. But here's the thing, right? The money, I think that's always been the point where they could probably come to an agreement, right? Both sides, I think, are willing to concede on. The studios won't give as much as the other side wants, but the other side is willing to concede and take a little bit less. I don't think that's it's the AI issue, and right, that this is the thing. They're trying to eliminate the human aspect of the art. And you cannot do that. You cannot expect that these creators and these artists are going to allow you to remove them from the process of. To ask one showrunner to turn in a treatment and then expect AI to write the season's worth of scripts off of the treatment, and that's all you're going to pay for, or to have an actor show up and you digitize them, you get 1 day's pay, and then you use them wherever you want to. This is a huge problem. You cannot have AI generating people and generating scripts and have that be okay. And I think that is where the real negotiation is butting heads and where the problem really is.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it's like,
insight
go ahead, Jared.
on the AI acting. It's bland acting is what it is, because
Well, sure.
it can't show extreme emotion.
No.
And which is the point, they want to use it for background people. But if you watch a lot of the because I have friends who are career background actors, and they love it. They're like, I get to do it. I don't have to do a whole. It's an easy job for some people. Some really make it can be difficult for others, based on working conditions. Which I'll get to that because that pisses me off. And it's just like, how are you gonna take emotion in your background? That's what makes it. Yeah, you can have your principal actors doing the scene and really show that emotion there because, you know, they are the focal point. But real life has layers.
Yes.
And oh my God, I forget what it is. If it's TV is about believability and film is about behavior, there's so many layers to it. If you have bland actors in the background, just not making expressions or whatever, it's like that. This is art. It's basically, it's all green screen.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. But
yeah,
I'm very, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's something that I feel like, you know, it does. The world changes, right? The world evolves. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to completely fight all of AI, but you don't want it taking over jobs. That's the biggest thing. Because I was listening to a podcast the other week with a writer, somebody I believe who's on the negotiating committee for the WGA, and he's talking about we don't want to take away AI as far as helping us with things, but we don't want it to actually take our jobs. That's the biggest thing. So I feel like, you know, it's a double-edged sword.
Well, and on the writing side of, no, sorry, Jared, on the writing side of what you were saying about the acting side, that you know, I'm in complete agreement on the writing side. You cannot have AI generate real dialogue or real emotion because it's incapable. You can feed it algorithms all day long. You can feed it data, but it's never been in love and had their heart broken. It's never lost someone to death. It doesn't have that experience. And without that experience, I don't care how advanced it gets, it cannot convey that emotion. And there's the problem. It might sound okay, but it's not real. And you can, when you start to put it all together, you realize it's just generic words. It's not emotion. And only a writer who's gone through life can write those type things. And this idea that they can somehow replace that, get rid of the writers' rooms and just like, you can't. You cannot. The art will suffer. The content will suffer. The pocketbook will suffer. And like this idea that if this is the idea for cost saving because of all the loss of at the theaters due to the pandemic and the streaming being more expensive than they anticipated, I understand the need for cost cutting. This is not the way to do it. Eliminating people is not the way to do it.
Eliminate your gourmet craft services.
Yeah.
Maybe stop paying huge named actors $10 million for a 3-minute scene.
Right.
There's different ways to do it. I was really shocked to see the rejection for safety. And the agreement. That's what really shocked me. Is I don't know. You just gotta take care of your people.
Yeah.
Like that's my whole thing is take care of your people because they'll come back and take care of you.
For sure. And how many times have we talked about it? Somebody getting injured on set, somebody working 20 hours and driving home to come back, 4 hours later to start all over again. Those type working conditions are insane. You cannot expect people to function at a high level like that and not have problems, not have injuries, not have, and the idea that they just sweep it under. Oh no, that we're good there. We didn't see that. We didn't kind of you got to do better at that, right? And I hate to say it, but I want to put this out there again because of the Danny Elfman story just recently or anything that's kind of going out there. The safety precaution of the people on set when it comes to behavior on set. people in power positions bullying people below them or harassing them sexually below them or what. It's an everyday occurrence. This isn't something, the casting couch didn't go away in the 50s. It's still there. All this kind of bad behavior is still relevant and still happening, and there's got to be safety precautions. A woman or a man should not feel uncomfortable working on a set for fear that if they say something wrong or do something wrong or they don't allow an advancement, that they're going to be taken advantage of and somehow blacklisted. There's got to be protections in place against that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And yet it happens every day. We report about it every week on the show in our industry news, something like that happening. And that's mind-boggling to me. It's like we're in the 21st century and we're still worrying about this happening to people. Like we've got to get that out there more and say this is not okay.
Yeah. I've called some people on their bullshit on certain projects because I don't like when people lie.
Yeah.
I don't like when it's a bait and switch and you're not transparent about things, or trying to pit people against each other.
Right.
And so I've called some people out on their bullshit, and I'm like, I'm not concerned, and I'm very grateful the career route that I chose, because I'm not the person, I'm not the actor who is run of the mill, who I'm auditioning for everything. Right. I've got a production company, I've got partners with stuff, and so I know what I'm making. Even if you are a run-of-the-mill actor, don't ever be afraid to speak up. Like no one's gonna look out for you more than you will.
Exactly.
But because I did speak up against some producers, they tried to deem me like difficult to work with, and I was like, good luck, because everyone knows my character,
right?
As Jared, everyone knows my integrity, and so and then those two people, they just they're not working again.
Well,
but it's like don't be a dick.
Exactly.
This is why we love you, Jared. This is why we love you.
And you know what? Don't be scared to burn those bridges, because the people that you burn those bridges with, like you just said, are likely never going to be able to work again anyway. The truth always comes out inevitably. They're going to realize who the bad person is and who the bad person is not. So don't be scared to burn that bridge in fear of retaliation, because even if that retaliation is attempted, it eventually will fail and you'll be okay. And you'll know that you stood up for what was right. So do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know we only have a... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. But that's just the thing about having integrity on set is you know what's right. You know what you should be doing. If you have enough respect for yourself, as everyone should have respect for themselves, you know what you're going to tolerate, not going to tolerate.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing's worth your peace.
Agreed. And I know we only have a couple minutes left because you are a very busy individual. But I did want to talk a little bit about the political aspect when it comes to the president, Miss Fran Drescher. Now, at the beginning, she was kind of teetering that line, not necessarily going full force into, yes, we should strike. And, I understand you try to keep everybody at bay before getting to that point. But I feel like she's been very wishy-washy on some stuff. What are your opinions on that? I'm very curious.
Well, I am grateful to have had insight into the negotiations before, because they did a media blackout. They weren't allowed to talk about things.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the inside, we knew that we were going to strike as SAG, and we knew that's ultimately where we were going. And Fran is saying like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And it's like,
right.
I know she was trying to save face and not let it out so that studios could be prepared. That's the thing is SAG, and I'm not a representative for SAG. I can't speak about them of what their intentions were. Just as Jared, I can say that I think it was smart to come through and not give any inclination about it. And then ultimately, in a way, took it by surprise.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's a good point, because I didn't even think about that. I was thinking about in the sense of, her trying to maybe get that second term to try to, because, SAG has been very divided for a very long time. So, to see if she wanted to keep moving forward in this position. But that's a very good perspective. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. I think she's just doing the best she can with the resources and knowledge that she has.
Yeah.
I really loved her speech.
Fired up.
Right.
Fired
that
up.
was a good
God,
speech.
the name went off. She went,
for sure. And look, I mean, I think that anybody that's kidding themselves to think that divide within the union is going to go away now somehow It's not. It's going to be like what we see in real life politics, right? Where the Democrats and Republicans come together whenever there's a major issue facing them, and they're united and woo. And then a little bit later, they're right back to where they were. That's going to happen again in SAG. Fran united the union and needed to when she needed to most, right. But that's gonna go back to the way it was afterwards. After this is all settled, and there's gonna be fair debate back and forth about what side is right and what side isn't, and who should be leading and who shouldn't be. Yep. But that's what it's all about. That's what makes everything work. If we take away that, then who are we? We have to have opposing sides. We have to have discussion. We have to have opinion, because that's how we get to compromise and make things work. So, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing that there's back and forth within the union. That's where you guys get the best stuff, is to get the back and forth and come to those agreements. So I'm hoping that's where it goes, right?
I hope so. I can see, I've heard rumors about it. Individual studios making their own negotiations.
For sure.
And I'm curious if that will happen, if they're allowed to do it, but that would be the smartest thing.
I mean, make your own deal. If each studio ditches the AMPTP and they do negotiate on their own for different, we're already seeing a consolidation, right? It's almost like old school Hollywood, where we're going back to the big five, right? We're already kind of seeing that consolidation. Now, if we kind of go back even more to old school, because I feel like if they make their own negotiations with the unions, then you're almost going back to contract players. Like, hey, if you agree to work for this studio, these are the rules, and we're going to sign you to this many pictures, and you're going to do this for this much money, kind of. It's almost like it's reverting back to the old studio system. Yeah. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but it certainly appears to be going in that direction.
Yeah.
They're even allowed to buy theaters now again, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's so crazy.
I'm curious to see what happens. I hope it all gets resolved and people get their fair share and what they need. And I just want to tell more good stories and distribute it to where it needs to be, because good independent stories need to be told. You know how many indies can be made with the budget of one Marvel movie? I'm not saying Marvel's bad or doesn't deserve its budget, but I'm saying if you take $250 million, my film is $3 million.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's maybe an eighth of their craft services budget.
That's what I'm saying. It pays for 2 assistants for one of their main stars, right? Like let's be honest about it. Like the money that the assistants are making on those films is absolutely insane. So and not because they're getting a decent salary, it's because there's 500 of them.
Right. No one needs that many people.
No. It's like it's crazy. But
That's
anyway.
So funny. Well, thanks, Jared.
Favored nations.
Yes.
For film projects.
There we go. I love it. Well, thank you, Mr. Jared Becker, for coming on the show and giving your insight on this, because it is very valuable. We appreciate it.
For sure.
And, you're always welcome.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course, Dylan.
Of course.
What?
Oh, what? Oh, what?
No, whoa, wait a minute.
Stay tuned.
But anyway, yeah, man. And hey, one more last time, SAG-AFTRA.org, everybody listening out there. If you have any questions, if you are an actor, a writer, a director, a producer, just anybody involved thinking, are you allowed to, are you not allowed to, SAG-AFTRA.org. It will clear it all up for you.
Man, that was a good conversation. Anytime we get to talk to that man, I feel like he brings a different perspective to the table. So it's always a joy to have him on the show. I think it's either 4 or 5 times he's been on the show now.
Yeah, I think it's his fourth time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he always brings good insight. He has a solid knowledge of the industry, right? He's not just a creative, but he also understands the business side of it. So it's always interesting to talk to him and see his perspective on how he approaches things. So yeah, great conversation, man.
Great freaking conversation. But now we have to lead into some difficult news, and this one's very hard. I know Lady Gaga is going through some things right now, that's for sure. The one and only Tony Bennett passed away, master pop vocalist who had a professional career spanning 8 decades with a #1 album at the age of 85. Now, he died yesterday morning in New York City. He was 96 years old, and boy, was he full of life. Bennett was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016, but had continued to perform and record through 2021. Frank Sinatra called him the greatest pop singer in the world. That's coming a lot from Old Blue Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
His recordings, most of them came from Columbia Records, which he signed in 1950. That's when he signed his first contract. They were characterized by an immense warmth, and vocal clarity and emotional openness. A gifted and technically accomplished interpreter of the Great American Songbook, he may be best known for his signature 1962 hit, I Left My Heart in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely one that could be felt all around the world. He brought so much happiness and so much joy to everybody who listened to his music, and was definitely a mentor for these new artists for them who are in the entertainment industry now. So this is a big loss for the music industry.
Devastating, man. And I hate it's just another artist that I wanted to see desperately live, had several opportunities, and something would come up and I wouldn't go, and now I can't. And it's just, it's a loss, man, because you don't last 80 years in the business if you're not doing it right. And this guy, just legendary. One of my all-time favorite songs, Stepping Out With My Baby. Oh, so good. So good. If you haven't heard that song by Mr. Tony Bennett, go listen to it. It's phenomenal. Okay, jumping over to the Mouse House of our House of Trouble as of lately, but there is a couple of good things, a couple of good news coming out. If you were like us, y'all, and you saw that first looking Photoshop looking poster for the Marvels, that was awful, and the first trailer was kind of well. It's all okay. Marvel Studios has released a new trailer for the Marvels, the sequel, of course, to 2019's Captain Marvel, and it's infinitely better, far more action-packed, far more explanation as to what the movie's actually about. Released a new poster with it. It's freaking awesome. But anyway, the film will star, of course, Brie Larson in her long-standing role of Carol Danvers, while Tanoia Paris and Iman Vellani make their Marvel Cinematic Universe theatrical debuts, reprising their respective roles of Captain Monica Rambeau, a.k.a. Photon, and reprising, of course, Kamala Khan, a.k.a. Miss Marvel. Now, building on the film's first trailer, the latest teaser gives Marvel fans a look at what's to come for the female-led supergroup. Carol, Monica, and Kamala are forced to band together after their powers become interwoven, swapping into one another's places when their powers are used. There's also a better look at Samuel L. Jackson's return as Nick Fury and Zawe Ashton's villain, Dar-Ben, who is intent on destroying several worlds. The Marvels is the next entry in Phase 5, of course, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which kicked off earlier this year. Rather underwhelming if you listen to many people, with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and continued with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, Nia DaCosta directs the Marvels, which is slated for a November 10th release. Since this thing was already in the can, that shouldn't be affected. We'll let you know if it is. Now, DaCosta is the first Black woman and fourth woman overall to direct a film in the MCU. DaCosta also co-wrote the screenplay with Megan McDonald, Elisa Karras, and Zeb Wells. So I thoroughly enjoyed the new trailer. I thought it was way better. It gives much more excitement for the movie. I was a little worried at first, but seeing this one, I'm kind of pumped for it.
Oh yeah, it really felt more like Marvel because, like you said, the first poster was very photoshoppy, very mid, and so was the trailer. And yeah, it didn't feel like the Marvel we all know and love. So I'm glad they grounded it a little bit, brought that suspense, because it definitely needed it. That's for sure. But now I am excited to see it. After that first trailer, I wasn't, but now I am. Thank goodness. It kind of had a Blue Beetle effect because now I'm excited to see Blue Beetle after the second trailer too. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is finally coming to Disney Plus. The third installment of James Gunn's Guardians trilogy will be available for streaming on August 2nd. for all those Disney Plus subscribers, which we know we are one of them. Which comes 3 months after the film first hit theaters. That 45-day window is so wild. Now, this one was almost a 90-day gap between releases, follows more recent Disney Plus trend for longer waiting periods for films to hit streaming. This includes Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which took just under 90 days after its theatrical release to be available on Disney Plus, and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which took about 80 days. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 earned over $840 million at the box offices worldwide. Hasn't crossed that $1 billion mark yet, but I say yet because I hope it does, but I don't know.
I don't know. Now that it's dropping on Disney Plus, I don't know if that number's attainable anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You never know. Okay, let's jump over to the bunny, of course, because you can't talk the mouse without the bunny. The sequel to Denis Villeneuve's sci-fi epic Dune, maybe headed to 2024, y'all, not this year. Amid the two Hollywood labor strikes, of course, Warner Brothers Film Group is strongly considering pushing the Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya tentpole to next year from its current November 3rd slot of this year. The film is a co-production with Legendary Entertainment, and both parties must agree on the new release date. Now, another source familiar with Warner Brothers said that the releases are moving forward as originally planned, and no formal discussions have been had yet, but noted that the duration of the union battles are completely unpredictable and could make this thing happen. Additionally, Warner Brothers is assessing potential new dates for the anticipated movie musical The Color Purple, which counts, of course, the one and only Oprah as a producer, as well as DC Studios' sequel Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So yeah, look out. I mean, everything could be shifting to next year, and eek, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad one for Warner Brothers Discovery. I feel like it's just awful, and the potential of having to push back release dates for the recent box office disaster for The Flash. Warner Brothers needed some good news, and Barbie delivered that. Warner Brothers Barbie made $22.3 million at the domestic box office in Thursday night previews. The preview haul is the biggest of the summer box office so far, beating the previous best 17.5 from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie's film is eyeing a $68 to $70 million today on Friday, including last night's previews for what's shaping up to be around the best opening of the year, $150 million.
Yeah.
Now, that is at 4,243 screens. That would beat the 3-day of Super Mario Brothers, which made $146.3 million. I'm hoping for the best, man. It's a great weekend for movies, so this is why we tell stories for movies like this.
Oh, without doubt. Barbenheimer is in full force, y'all. Like, I can tell you, we're going to talk about Oppenheimer's opening in a little bit, too. And, yeah, oh, my God, my theater, it was nothing but Barbies and Oppenheimers, literally in costume, filling the theater, every screen, every showing. It was amazing. I'm so pumped to finally see that back. It was so good to see. Hey, did you know that Comic-Con was going on? Yeah, It's kind of really underwhelming this year because nobody's allowed to do anything. They can't show up. They can't promote anything verbally with But you know what? Paramount, they at least had something to talk about. Paramount was the only studio that actually showed up with some sort of film going on, and it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. It kicked off the movie panels at San Diego Comic-Con in fine style. Now, like I said, due to the writers and actors strikes, the studio didn't have Seth Rogen, who is both one of the movie's producers and actors, nor any of the other voice stars. But it did bring out director Jeff Rowe and plenty of footage from the movie. 20 minutes of footage, to be precise. Rowe showed off a chunk from the beginning of the movie, and judging judging by the reaction that we're hearing, it went over like gangbusters. The hall, while not packed in the usual way it usually is, still had thousands in their seats, and the audience was howling for the film, which opens August 2nd in theaters. The panel wrapped with a surprise appearance by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle co-creator Kevin Eastman, who also announced that Nickelodeon and Paramount have secured the rights to the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series that aired in the late 80s on CBS. He did not give details as to when and on what platform the series would appear, but I'm guessing Paramount Plus. I'm just saying. This seemed like an obvious since it aired on CBS back in the 80s anyway. It was one of my favorite cartoons. I'm so super pumped that we're going to be seeing it again.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Well, CBS is heavily revising its fall 2023 release schedules. I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's because Hollywood's double strike continues to be felt. CBS is adding a large amount of acquired programming and unscripted shows. To that end, the network is importing a number of shows from within the Paramount ecosystem. Perhaps most notably, its hit series Yellowstone will make its broadcast debut on CBS on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern/Pacific. Beginning with season 1, the show originated on Paramount Network, which is owned by Paramount Global, as is CBS. So they're just trying to go back to the rabbit hole, man. I mean, it makes sense.
It does, but this is already causing all kinds of trouble because all them actors are already asking if they're going to get paid broadcast residuals, because under the current contract, they would get paid broadcast residuals. Yeah. So we'll see about that. Plus, I'm hearing that like Yellowstone, it's going to be like a PG. I mean, if you guys have watched Yellowstone, I don't even know how it stood a chance on broadcast television. Just they're going to have to cut so much out of it. It's going to be like 10 minutes. Like, I don't even know. I mean, you can't, an hour show, there's so much shit that goes down in an hour episode of Yellowstone that you can't put on broadcast TV. I don't even know how they're going to do it. It's going to be interesting for sure. All right, jumping over to NBC Universal, and as promised, we have Oppenheimer's numbers in the Battle of Barbenheimer. Universal's Oppenheimer made $10.5 million in Thursday previews. It beat the preview gross for Dunkirk, which made $5.5 million. Now, Nolan's last movie to open, of course, pre-pandemic. Oppenheimer also beat preview hauls from its hits earlier this year, like John Wick 4, Fast X, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, the film is headed for $32 million today, including previews, and get this, $75 million for the 3-day opening weekend at 3,610 theaters. Now, Oppenheimer's budget, in nowadays terms, was pretty modest at only $100 million, so it should end up being very profitable for Universal, which is awesome. It's the highest grossing opening for a Nolan film, if you can believe that, which is mind-boggling to me when you think of The Dark Knight and like all these things. It's just crazy. And the one thing I want to like throw out there and again say, I know I kind of touched on it with Jared a little bit, but those numbers are massively impressive, guys, because if you notice, 3,600, that's almost 700 screens less than Barbie. It's also playing half the amount of times throughout the day that Barbie is because of the length of it, 3 hours long. So that haul means they are selling out theaters and packing theaters on a consistent basis for Oppenheimer, which is just freaking awesome and amazing to see.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I cannot wait to see it. It's going to be something that I feel like is it's a conversation starter. That's for sure.
Oh, without doubt.
Super pumped.
They're throwing around words like masterpiece and the greatest film of the century, and they're not kidding. Those aren't just talking pieces. I've seen it. It's the best film I've ever seen, and they are not overstating with masterpiece. It's just Nolan is a genius. That's all I can say. Just pure genius.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, NBC is also making changes to its fall 2023 release schedule, with the broadcaster also setting premiere dates for the upcoming season. The broadcaster had previously announced its fall schedule on May 12th, just 10 days into the writer's strike that largely shut down Hollywood productions. But with no end to the strike in sight and SAG-AFTRA, of course, now joining the picket lines, NBC is being forced to shake things up. Most notably, the network is no longer planning its Wednesday night One Chicago block, nor episodes of Law & Order and Law & Order SVU to air on Thursdays.
What?
Instead, NBC will air the season finale of America's Got Talent on Wednesday, September 27th, the People's Country Choice Awards on Thursday, September 28th. The network will then run reruns of One Chicago shows at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays beginning October 4th, followed by new episodes of Quantum Leap and Magnum PI. Now, Quantum Leap had finished the majority of its second season prior to the writer's strike, while Magnum PI will debut its second part of its fifth and final season, moving to NBC from CBS. So, yeah, this only makes sense.
It does, but I'm like, am I hearing that right? So there will be absolutely no Law and Orders, not even reruns. What?
Bum, bum.
Like, what the fuck? I can't even imagine a week without a Law and Order episode, repeat or not. Like, what the fuck? Let's settle these fucking strikes. Come on, man. I need my Law and Order. Like, I'm just devastated by that news. Oh, it's not just affecting TV shows, y'all, though. Like we said, Warner Brothers was considering pushing some dates back. Well, guess what? Lionsgate has. Lionsgate is pushing the theatrical releases of this August's White Bird, A Wonder Story from filmmaker Mark Foster, and next year's Dirty Dancing sequel from director Jonathan Levine due to the strikes. Now, White Bird, the spin-off of the studio's huge 2017 box office smash Wonder, was set to launch in limited release on August 18th and go wider on August 25th. It's now undated for the quarter 4 at the end of this year. That leaves that last weekend in August without a wide theatrical release, which isn't too unusual for that point in the summer, but still kind of odd that they would yank it completely. I don't know what's going to happen with that one. In the case of Dirty Dancing, the studio is waiting to get the Jennifer Grey reprise just in the right perfect state. Not unusual for any brewing production right now. The pick, of course, is set to move away from its February 9th, 2024 date to the summer of 2025. Now, that's interesting. They're using the strike as a reason to move it, but they're very quietly, with what you hear in that story, saying they don't think it's very good. Yeah. They're trying to get it perfect. Hence why we've been saying over and over and over, you shouldn't have fucking touched it. You should never revisit Dirty Dancing. This should be enough. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just going to go on the record right now and say I would not be surprised if this film never sees the light of day.
Fact.
Just going to say.
I completely agree. I was just trying to wrap my brain around, like, how do they even, touch on freaking Patrick? Like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. If this whole film's story isn't about his death and how Baby is dealing with it, then what the fuck is the film even for? Like, I just don't even see what's the point. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, heading over to Amazon/MGM, Luca Guadagnino's Challengers, that one starring Zendaya, which had been set as the Venice Film Festival opener, has been pulled from the festival due to promotional complications promoted by SAG-AFTRA strike. Venice has announced that the sexy sports comedy, I wouldn't consider that a comedy.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Interesting. And kind of like The Bear being a comedy.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
guys,
what the fuck?
Right. In which Zendaya plays a former tennis prodigy turned into coach, entangled in a love triangle with two pro tennis players, played by Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist. Now, it has been changed with its distribution strategy. The film's production has been disrupted because of the current actor strikes, which prohibits SAG-AFTRA union members from doing any type of promotional activity. This means Zendaya, O'Connor, and Feist, would have been able to launch the film on August 30th on the Venice red carpet. Now, Challengers will get an early summer 2024 release date that will give the movie a wide breath from the strike action and also help the film better reach its target audience. A September 15th U.S. theatrical release date for Challengers was previously set for the hotly anticipated film, which marks Guadagnino's first full-fledged U.S. studio movie. Now, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, Amazon Pictures Amazon Studios is releasing the film domestically. So basically, you're not going to see it anytime soon.
Yeah, no,
that's all I gotta say.
yeah, it sucks because I got super pumped when I saw the trailer. It looks like it's going to be an amazing film, like another like huge thing for Zendaya, right? But apparently not. Not anytime soon. Amazon Prime Video has finally set the premiere date for The Boys spin-off series Gen V, also from creator Eric Kripke, of course. The new show, which takes place at a superhero college, will launch with its first 3 episodes on September 29th. Now, new episodes will roll out weekly until the season 1 finale on November 3rd. Amazon has set the premiere date for the show following the conclusion of filming on The Boys season 4, which does not yet have a release window announced, and amid, of course, the ongoing strikes, a work stoppage that affected Amazon's plans to promote Gen V and other titles with cast members and creators at this year's San Diego Comic-Con. Again, like I said, that thing's just not what it normally is every year. You know, Hall H, it's usually where all the stars come out and they've got all the big announcements and all the ain't shit happening this year. So I feel really bad for them, man. It's just, it's bad.
It's been the past 5 years because of COVID and then everybody creating D23 and, you know, the DC, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah.
But so I really feel bad for like all of Comic-Con that goes to each and every state because conventions are not what they used to be.
No, and you know, you're right, because wasn't last year was like the first time it was actually back in person, right? Like, and now, so yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah, it really does. Heading over to Netflix, which reported its second quarter of 2023 earnings on Wednesday. Now they're revealing paid subscribers increased by 5.89 million in that quarter, which ended June 30th. Netflix smashed Wall Street's expectations by increasing or instead rising to 238.39 million global subscribers in quarter 2, compared with its 232.5 million total in quarter 1. Now that embarks an 8% year-over-year increase in subscribers. The company didn't quantify how much the subscriber gains were due to the password sharing crackdown, but said signups were already exceeding cancellations for the paid sharing program. Now, Wall Street analysts had forecast earnings per share of $2.86 on a 8.3 billion in revenue for Netflix. The company reported a diluted EPS of 3.29 on a $8.2 billion in revenue, which marks 2.7% year-over-year growth in revenue. Now, on the revenue miss, Netflix shares fell more than 6% in after-hours trading. The streamer says that it turned in a profit of $1.5 billion in quarter 2 with operating income of $1.8 billion. Free cash flow for the quarter stood at $1.3 billion. For quarter 3, Netflix is projecting a revenue of $8.5 billion and a net profit of $1.6 billion. Yeah, I definitely think it has a lot to do with password crackdown, and so people have to sign up for their own accounts. That's definitely something I feel like is happening.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's going to level out. They're saying they're seeing more signups than cancellations, but that will level out, I think, after a couple of months. But what I'm really reading into that, and we kind of touched on it briefly with Jared at the top of the show, is like, dude, they're bringing in $8 billion in revenue per quarter and basically $1.5 billion in profit per quarter. But they're trying to say they don't have money to pay what the actors and writers are asking for. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding? $1.5 billion. So if you add that up, that's $6 billion a year in profit and $24 billion in total revenue a year. And they're like, it's just mind boggling to me, guys. All the actors and the writers are asking for is $600 million total in everything that they're asking for from all of the studios combined. And they are being told there's no money to pay that. And yet this one studio alone is making $6 billion in profit per year. Like, you add up the math and tell me it's not available, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
Netflix has also confirmed it's eliminating, its basic plan, which is its cheapest streaming plan without ads. Now, they're eliminating that in the US and the UK in an attempt to boost customers on the ad-supported standard with ads, which the company first launched last November. Now, in May, Netflix said it had signed up more than 5 million members for its ad-supported plans, with 25% of new subscribers taking on that package. So, hey man, if you don't mind ads, I mean, it makes sense to pay a couple bucks cheaper, in my opinion. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I felt like this was coming because it's the one screen thing and it's the lowest quality. So I felt like this is probably something that wasn't even making a whole lot of money anyway. So it makes sense for them to cancel this plan.
It really does. And can we just talk about the irony of it for a minute? Because all of these streamers are now basically offering paid with ads packages. The whole point of the streamers was to cut the cord and not have broadcast TV and not have cable where you were interrupted with commercials throughout your program. It was the idea of streaming, watch it straight through. It's the best thing ever kind of a thing. And now they're quickly realizing that they're losing money at a rate that they just did not expect and will be for some time. And the only way to recoup that money is through ads. Like when you sell ad time on broadcast networks. It's basically backfired. It's basically broadcast networks that you control. It's just, I don't know. The irony of it is just funny to me.
Yeah, and something else I want to touch on before jumping into the guest segment was AMC reversing their decision for the different tier pricing for movie theaters. We reported back on this when it first happened, I believe 3 or 4 months ago, where they were charging more for premium seatings in the theaters. But we were talking about how would they regulate that? What defines premium seating, because a lot of people like the middle, but also a lot of people like the top, and even some people like the bottom. So, I mean, yeah, it just makes sense for them to completely eliminate that, because that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we called that from the get-go. There's no way you can enforce it. No way anybody was going to buy into that shit. I mean, I'm surprised it took this long to get rid of it, because, whatever, man. It's just...
It makes...
Yeah.
No sense.
It doesn't. I thought you were talking about AMC, the network, at first. And by the way, guys, if you thought there was any fatigue for The Walking Dead, you're wrong. Those numbers are huge for Negan and Maggie spinoff. It got picked up for a second season. Daryl's show got picked up for a second season. They just launched the new trailer for Rick and Michonne's return. So that shit ain't dying anytime soon. AMC plans to ride that fucker until they just can't do it anymore. I don't even know, man.
It's interesting because it moved away from pop culture into cult following, it seems like.
Oh, for sure.
So that's where Walking Dead universe is right now. But we're super excited because we have the one and only Dale Peterson coming on the show to talk about his kind of sci-fi serial killer show In Through the Outdoor. But that's not all we're talking about, because he also loves music and loves shooting music videos, also shoots some documentaries in Yellowstone National Park. So all of these cool things that we get to talk about. And I mean, I'm taking some notes during this thing because this man has so much knowledge of the entertainment industry. It's really inspiring.
Oh, yeah. And the one thing that I really enjoyed about this interview is that he did not hold back about what he did like and did not like. I mean, the man was brutally honest about, I enjoyed music videos. I'm never doing another documentary. It's never. It's so funny about how honest he was with the things that he's done. So, this is going to be a great one for all you guys out there listening. You're really going to enjoy it.
For sure. Well, here he is. Right. Let's see. No, not bad at all. Who's this Anya Charlarta for the IMDbPro's top streaming thing? I'm trying to see before we go into that.
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent question.
Yeah, for the bonus content, this is how important IMDbPro is. So you can see who the hell these people are. Oh, she's in The Witcher. That's what it is.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, because
Yeah.
that just saw. And there you go. Makes sense because of the show. That's right. They
Yeah.
launched their new thing, right? Like, okay, all right,
Pretty interesting.
good deal. Good
Okay.
deal.
Fantastic. Can rock and roll with the back half and then be rocking and rolling.
For sure.
All right. All right, now it is time for the top 5 segment, man. And this week it is top 5 favorite actors or actresses with underutilized range. Now, this one means, well, they get typecast a little bit. Even most popular actors and actresses get typecast in certain genres unless they step outside that box intentionally. So this one is very, very cool. I really like this. Specifically for some of my female picks, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Oh, for sure. This is definitely going to be a good one. And like, I think, like you said, there's a lot of people on these lists that you think like, oh yeah, that is only kind of how I've seen them. And so it's going to be fun to open it up and go, hey, did you know they also do this? So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Number 5 for me goes to Jeremy Allen White. Once on Shameless and now on The Bear. Like we've talked about multiple times when it comes to Emmy nominations, when it comes to all of these different things, he's a very good dramatic actor. But when it comes to his comedy, the dryness is so spot on. And he's slowly but surely becoming one of my favorite actors. I don't know, something about him. He's just so freaking good. Definitely want to get him on the show.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But yeah, I feel like, give him that comedy realm, like a dark comedy. I feel like he would just knock it out of the park, even though, like I said, they say that The Bear is a comedy, which whatever, to each his own. But I definitely want to see him in like a dark comedy role, to where like a film, to where he can show more of that range. But the glimpses we have seen on his 2 biggest shows have been phenomenal. So that's why I say we need to see more of that from him. But yeah, number 5 for me, Jeremy Allen White.
Excellent pick. Yeah, because I do feel like, he's been kind of typecast in that more dramatic and kind of like I've had a fucked up life, but I'm trying to get out of it type of a character. Yeah. And we know he's so much more capable than that he can play so much more than that. So that's a really good pick. My number 5 is a longtime fan favorite of the show and one of our favorite people, Autumn Reeser. And here's another person who I think's range is so underestimated. And if you go digging, you can find stuff. But, of course, the huge success of the OC and the quirky Taylor Townsend, she kind of got stereotyped into that good girl, quirky, comedic, not so much comedic, but, quirky type character. But if you go digging, she's so much more than that. And then that kind of parlayed into the whole Hallmark movies, right? And the little romance movies and that type character. But if you've ever caught her on Entourage, right? Like playing Lizzie, oh my God, she's like a total badass on that show, right? And then she's pulled off some seriously dramatic roles in like Valley of Bones and Sully and just like a badass action star doing some kung fu and shooting guns and shit and like Dead Reckoning and like these different type movies. And so the range is there to be able to do so much more than the romance movies, the romance comedies, and the quirky characters. She's got she can play badass villain. She can play an action hero. She can play a lawyer. She can play like all of these different type things. And I think that we don't see nearly enough of that. She's also a phenomenal comedian. If you guys have ever caught any of the Thrilling Adventure Hour, she does voiceover work. She plays Amelia Earhart. She plays a series of different characters. And these are like old school serial radio shows. They're all comedy. And she does different voices and that. So she'd probably be a phenomenal voice actor and like animated stuff. So yeah, there's so much opportunity there that I feel like she's so much more than just rom-coms, and quirky Taylor Townsend. And I'd like to see far more of it. I'd like to see her honestly play like a fucking badass villain, like a straight up killer type villain. Like I think that would be awesome because it's so against what she plays, but I think she'd nail it because there's little glimpses of that here or there in the horror movies that she's done or the action movies that she's done. You can see it. And I would just, I don't know. So my number 5, Autumn Reeser.
Number 4 for me goes to Jennifer Lawrence, Oscar winner herself. Obviously with her new comedy that just came out, No Hard Feelings, but I mean, she is so known for these dramatic roles, of course, from Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, Winter's Bone, Joy. I just feel like, you know, the performances that she gives dramatically are like so amazing, but her comedic roles are so special because you know she's a very funny person. If you watch any interviews that she's ever done, specifically the viral hot ones that she just did, so freaking good. But I just feel like we need to give her a little bit more leeway, you know, to what she can do. You think about, you know, Katniss Everdeen in Hunger Games or all of these different things, but she deserves to open up and express herself more, like No Hard Feelings, which I haven't seen it yet, but I know you have. And I've seen all the reviews saying that it's the raunchy comedy that is unapologetic, that like comedies used to be back in the day. So that's really good to see, and that's really good that she took a chance on a project like this.
Well, I'm going to just flat out tell you, and I don't mean to burst your bubble, but I'm bursting it in a good way. It is not that. It is not raunchy. It's actually a straight up, really serious character piece about two people that don't know their identities and who they are and trying to come out of their comfort zone and discover who they are in life and where they're headed. I was shocked. I was like totally caught off guard. I was expecting everything the marketing had told me about that film, and it wasn't anything like that. Is there a little bit of sex here or there? Yes. You know, but it's not the raunchy, over-the-top sex romp that everybody was billing it as. It's actually a really solid story, and I'm so glad you put her on the list because she shows her complete range within this one film. She shows the dramatic side. She shows the comedic side. She shows the action side. There's like a little bit of all these different characters in her character in this film. It's a great film to highlight her like amazing acting abilities because she gives all of it in this film. It's just, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen, like honestly in film, is when she's on the beach with him and they're trying to skinny dip and somebody steals their clothes. That's all. I'm just going to leave it at that. But it's got to be one of the funniest fucking things I have ever seen on film. And it's the most naked you will ever see her, which makes it even more funny when you see the scene. It's fucking hilarious. But anyway, definitely great pick on your list. Go see the film, y'all, if you haven't seen it. And go in with open minds because it's not what you think it is. Number 4 for me, Josh Charles, right? Like, this guy kills it in dramatic roles, okay? You guys have seen it from Dead Poet Society early on to The Good Wife to The Right Stuff to like all these things that he's been in. He's always this like hardcore drama role. He's always walking the line between decent guy and hardcore asshole that you just want to fucking hate, right? Like he's that kind of a character in almost everything I've ever seen him in. But he's got some serious comedy chops. Like if you go back and you watch him on Sports Night from Aaron Sorkin, his dry humor and his ability to deliver lines, like, you know, the timing in his comedy is fucking brilliant. I would love to see this guy in far more comedic roles. So either dry comedy like that, where there's a little bit of seriousness to it, like a dry, or full out just like ridiculous slapstick comedy. I think he would slay at it, and I think we've seen him in too many dramatic roles for far too long. Let's lighten Josh up and give him something really comedic to play in. I think it would be epic to see that. I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's a brilliant actor. I don't think he gets enough recognition as an actor, so even more so I would like to see him broaden that range and give him the opportunity to play more types of roles than just that borderline asshole type guy. I want to see more because I think he's capable, and I want him to showcase that range, man. Josh Charles.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. Completely agree. Number 3 for me goes to Taraji P. Henson. Not a lot of people think of her in like these different lanes, but she has succeeded and just like flourished in these different lanes. The specific one for me that comes to mind is What Men Want, is her and Tracy Morgan. That movie is so freaking funny. But then you go back and look at all the dramatic pieces that she's done, obviously with everything with Empire, but Hustle and Flow, Hidden Figures, all of these different projects that she just gave us that in-depth drama that makes you feel some type of way. And she really does tell an amazing story. But I wish she would go back to a little bit of comedy, because she's got that fire. She's got that spunk that I feel like a lot of people would know and love. Like, I feel like her and a collaboration with her and Tyler Perry, like, I think that would be so freaking funny. I think if they wrote something together and, of course, like either starred or Tyler directed her or something along those lines, I think that would be just monumental, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, I'm with you there. I'd love to see them do a comedy together. If I'm not mistaken, I think they did do a movie together where she was a scorned wife. So very dramatic and very like dark, but I'm with you. I'd like to see the Medea side. I'd like to see Tyler do a comedy with her. I think it would be phenomenal. And you know what else I think she could probably pull off? Because you saw little hints of it here or there in Empire and stuff. She'd probably be a badass action star. Wouldn't you love to see her like in an action flick? I'm thinking of Person of Interest with James Caviezel and for her time on that television show where she was a cop, and you kind of almost see, okay, maybe she can be like this badass action figure too. So let come on, Taraji, let's do some more stuff. Let's get you out there, man. My number 3, Amy Rutberg. All we see her in is like these like hardcore serious business type roles, right? Or the Angel of Death in NCIS New Orleans. But they're always kind of more of on a serious side. You know, her little stint on Law and Order. Oh my God, one of the most dramatic episodes that I've ever seen. Just that scene of her on when they go in tight on the witness box, just terrifying. And of course, Daredevil and all the things she's been in. But if you've ever met her or talked to her, or seen her in interviews or anything, she's fucking hilarious. I mean, she is really, really funny and just has this great outlook and like approach to life. I think she'd be another one that would just be epic in comedy. I think she would kill it in a romantic comedy or just a straight up, comedic, like type. I think she would be hilarious, and I think she would just kill it. She's also a writer, so a lot of people don't realize she's a writer. So a lot of the stuff that you're seeing on now on NCIS Hawaii, she's writing. So a lot of that comedic stuff, that back and forth banter, she's writing that. So I would like to see her act that. I'd like to see far more stuff on screen. Maybe her and Danny Strong, who are really close friends, maybe they could write a comedy together and do something like that. How awesome would that be? I think that they would be hilarious even in a film together. In a comedy would be just like something I'd really like to see. And again, she's got the chops. I think she's a phenomenal actress who we just haven't seen enough of in different type things. So let's get Amy Rutberg in a comedy. Let's make that happen. I'm just saying.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Number 2 for me, I feel like, is just underutilized all the way around. Probably a controversial pick because I know he's done some bad things in the past, but he's always owned up to his shit. He always said that it was something that, he needs to work on, and that he is just a human being, but at least he acknowledges when he's wrong. But anyway, Shia LaBeouf. I feel like Shia LaBeouf is a highly underutilized actor in all senses of the word actor. I feel like he can literally pull off any role you put in front of him. Of course, he takes those more dramatic approaches where he's playing a bad guy or kind of like an anti-hero type of character. But Peanut Butter Falcon was such a beautiful story. It's kind of like it's hard to compare it, but it's kind of like the less known about Palmer with Justin Timberlake. So I feel like if any role you put in front of Shia, he's gonna knock out of the park. I'm really excited for this next one that he's doing right now, or at least it might be in post or they're probably waiting on it or something. But with where he's a priest, and I think William Dafoe's in it, and it just looks like this amazing like character study of like the Catholic Church. But I just feel like he's one of the unsung actors in Hollywood that I feel like doesn't get enough credit because he's a human and fucks up. So I wanted to put him on the list because I'm always supporting the man. So there it is, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, no, again, a phenomenally gifted actor who people overlook because of other stuff. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I think this guy, this young man, I don't want to call him a kid anymore. This young man, he could probably play any role you put in front of him, regardless of genre. And he's just unbelievable. And yeah, should be definitely getting some more stuff. My top two I feel the same way about. And not that they've done bad stuff, but like highly not just underutilized in range, but underappreciated in every way, shape, and form imaginable. My top two. These people, let's start with number two, Jon Bernthal. This man, how he does not have an Oscar and or an Emmy or a SAG award or any other type thing is mind-boggling to me. In every project he is in every scene he is in, he steals the movie or the show. He is unbelievably talented, just a phenomenal actor. And I know you think, when you think Jon Bernthal, you think The Punisher, you think Shane from The Walking Dead, you think this like badass killer, I'm going to kick your fucking ass type character, right? We own the city, or, you know, and you're right. He can play that, right? He's terrifying. He's that guy, and all kudos. But I want you to go back and watch Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, or American Gigolo, or so many, or Ford vs. Ferrari, where he plays Lee Iacocca. He can also play humble, unsure of themselves type characters that are struggling to find their identity. He's done some comedy. He's in Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, he plays like this principal hooked on drugs, right? And he's like trying to guide these kids, but he's like, you know, fucking hysterical. This guy can play comedy. You don't think Punisher, comedic, but he's actually unbelievably talented as a comedian as well. And I would love to see him do more stuff outside of the box like that. Put down the guns, put down the stuff. Let's do more comedy. Let's do more character study like Gigolo was, right? Like American. He even admitted he thought he was like, are you kidding? You're trying to cast me as a lover, like as a charismatic playboy? Like even he thought it was crazy, but he nailed it. And I'm just saying, there's range there that we have yet to see. There's little hints of it here or there in projects, and I would like to see somebody, some director, some writer, somebody capitalize on that and say, hey, we've got this goofy-ass comedy with this nerdy fella that just can't get shit done, Jon Bernthal. Like, I want to see somebody take that chance and him say yes. And let's see that happen, because I think this guy would nail it. And somebody give him a fucking award, because his acting is just mind-boggling. Like, come on.
Yeah, so freaking good. Like this man went over to Russia to learn acting and their techniques. Like he is so skilled.
Like, unbelievable.
But okay, number one for me goes to Justice Smith. Ooh. I really love Justice Smith. He gets put into a lot of teenager roles because he is younger. And he does look the part. He does look really young.
He does.
But when you put him in these different genres, like the Dungeons and Dragons movie or the Jurassic World, I believe he was in all three. I just, you know, he flourishes. He's one of those people who can do anything. So I feel like, because right now he is a little typecast to the teenage roles, the high school roles, that type of thing. But I'm super excited to see where his career moves forward. He's one of my all-time favorite actors right now, up and coming, established, whatever you want to say. But I just feel like, you know, we, as an industry in a whole, we have to start giving him a little bit more different type of roles, because he is so freaking talented, man. He really is. I mean, first time I saw him was in Paper Towns, and then we saw him in The Get Down, and we've really followed his career a
Oh, for
lot
sure.
because I mean, Hollywood acknowledges him. He's put in a lot of great content, but he deserves different types of thing other than the high school type roles. So number one for me is Justice Smith.
No, that's a phenomenal one. And you know where I would love to see him plugged in, where I think he would just excel and be fucking phenomenal? The Good Doctor, bro. Have this man as a doctor in a first year residency or something, playing an adult, but still, you know, first year resident, whatever. But I would love to see him in more of a serious role like that. Maybe have him be somebody that's on the level with Sean. Right?
Yeah.
Like not autistic, but like genius level like that. And the back and forth there. Oh my God. Justice would slay at that, right? Like I think that would be amazing. Or have him pop up on the spinoff that's about to come, The Good Lawyer. Have him be a young professional lawyer. And, you know, kind of that I think is an avenue I would love to see him in. Because I think he's ready for those adult roles. Right? Yeah, I'm right there with you. My number one, again, how this woman does not have an Oscar or an Emmy or any type of acting award whatsoever is damn near tragic. She should have all of them. I'm talking about Lauren Graham. She should have won an Emmy every single fucking year on the Gilmore Girls, like period. If that wasn't a bad enough, you know, just tragic overlook, again, she should have won every year on fucking Parenthood, right? Like, come on. But I gotta tell you gotta step away from that though. Those are very unique roles where there was a little bit of comedy, but it was very much more serious in tone. She is a phenomenal comedic actress. If you look at the Mighty Ducks, right? What's the one with Billy Bob Thornton? The Christmas movie there, like Bad Santa.
Bad Santa.
Yeah. She's done some comedic roles that she just knocks it out of the park on, like full comedic roles, and she's one of those people, again, that can play like this hardcore drama, or she can go full-on slapstick comedy and everything in between. And sometimes within a single scene, she can do that with like Zoe's Playlist or like multiple times on Parenthood or Gilmore Girls, where it's comedic, dramatic, like, you know, and just everything you could think of all in one scene. This woman, somebody needs to give her a shot, like, at something huge like that. Give her a major a lead role in a comedy, in a thing. She's been a supporting character in so many movies. It's time she gets a lead role in a film, and somebody take the chance to highlight her phenomenal skill as an actor, because she's got it. No matter what you write for that role for her, she's gonna slay it, regardless of the genre. And somebody, I feel, just like in Hollywood, has to give her dues after all this time. That woman has earned it. She has put. Just read her books. If you read Someday Maybe, you can see the comedic tone in that. It's basically a true life story, but not. It's fictionalized, but it's so funny and it's so well done. I would love to see her do more of that, and I don't think she's being utilized nearly enough, highlighting the range of her phenomenal talent. It's a shame she wasn't able to work herself into Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that they couldn't find a way to get her in there, because I have no doubt she would have fucking been epic on that show.
Completely agree. She would have fit right in. I mean, there's no way it would have not worked.
Yeah. It's just unreal.
Yeah, I really loved Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, the one that the character that she played, like kind of like the bitchy boss who is actually nice but is going through things, and like that type of role, because she never plays those anti-hero type of roles. So that it was a really cool perspective to see her play. So that was a lot of fun.
For sure, and that's a great point too, because remember that one scene where she gets drunk? Fucking hilarious as shit when she's at the bar drunk and just starts opening up to Zoe. That's a clear example of one of those where it's full range. She's the bitch boss, and then she's the power person, and then she's drunk and vulnerable and open and funny. It's like there's the whole range right there, and I wish more people would give her that opportunity.
Exactly. Well, what are your top 5 favorite segments? Our top 5 favorite actors or actresses with underutilized range, or just underrated in general? We want to know. Be sure to comment below in the YouTube section or podcast section, wherever you're listening to the show. Please let us know.
Yes.
All right, heading over to the box office recap. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 brought in about $56.2 million this past week. Number 2 was Sound of Freedom with $27 million. Number 3 was Insidious, The Red Door with $13 million. Number 4 was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with $12 million. And number 5, still in the top 5, was Elemental with $8.7 million. I mean, of course, new movies coming out. The only ones that really matter, Oppenheimer and Barbie. There's nothing else to see here.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Other things you can go see if you want, but those two are the only ones that matter.
Yes.
I'm super freaking pumped. Like, I wasn't going to go see Barbie, but then now Emily said she'll go see Barbie, and I was like, okay, fantastic, because I felt like I couldn't go by myself to see Barbie. So, it was one of those things.
I feel that. Like, I'm a 53-year-old man. Am I going to go sit in a theater by myself to watch fucking Barbie? I'm like, I got to find somebody to go, because I feel like it's going to be very strange if I do that by myself. But I want to see it, though. I'm hearing it's good performances, but it's up and down. Like, it's either people are saying it's, like, really great, or they're saying it's, like, maybe not. So I want to see it. I want to decide, but like, I don't have a kid to bring, and I don't know. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to try to. Maybe I'll just do a really early first showing afternoon thing where I'll likely be only one of 10 people in there. Maybe I can get away with it that way or something. But yeah,
right, hide in a corner.
Exactly. It's like, can I have a private screening, please? Like, you know.
Yeah, thanks. I know. There's so many people in it, so I just feel like everybody's different dynamics. I feel like is going to be really cool.
I mean, who doesn't want to see Dua Lipa as a freaking mermaid Barbie? Hello. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
That's enough, right?
Exactly.
Margot Robbie and Dua Lipa. I'm there. Like, who? I mean, come on, man. Like,
so funny. Well, movies you still can go see: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Transformer: Rise of the Beast, No Hard Feelings, Joyride, and Little Mermaid.
I'm so proud of myself. I've seen almost all of those.
Look at that.
Right? There was a stretch there where we weren't seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't a lot to see.
That's true.
To be honest. Well, heading over to the IMDbPro's top trending segment. Of course, the top trending movie this week is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. So it'll be interesting to see when that next one will drop. Who knows right now with the strikes.
Yeah.
The top trending TV show is The Witcher. They just came back. I'm sure a lot of people are excited for that. That one's a big one for Netflix and a huge cult following, so it makes sense. And it only makes sense that Anya Charlotta,
Shalatra, maybe? Shalatra?
Sure. Sorry. She is the top trending star because she's in The Witcher. So be sure to check her out. I believe in the 3rd season. I think it's the 3rd season.
And final, right? Is this the final Cavill, or is this the first Hemsworth?
I know.
I don't know. Question. I hate to say I've never seen any of them, so I can't remember if this is the final Cavill or the first Hemsworth. But either way, it's worth watching. Apparently,
I watched the first episode and it was good, but for some reason I just dropped off. I feel like I'm just so tied to Game of Thrones and that whole universe.
That makes
sense. It's just hard to jump on something else that's kind of like it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for episode 229 of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. It's absolutely wild. We got to thank our guest one more time, Dale Peterson, and our guest co-host this week, Jared Becker, for coming on the show. Both of them absolutely amazing. Be sure to follow both of them on social media. And you guys know you can follow us on social media. The company at ITCAF Podcast and at Crazy Ant Media. The podcast is at ITCAF Podcast and the company is at Crazy Ant Media. And we have a new episode of Everything's Okay, our mental health podcast out right now, where we had Lauren Biogli on the show to talk about acceptance.
Yes.
So that was a very insightful conversation. So be sure to check that one out as well. Absolutely love having these therapy sessions. It's good. It's good for the brain. And you guys know you can follow us both personally on social media. Myself at J Logan Austin and
at Crazy Ant CEO.
That's right. That's right. And you guys know you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. And of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can get free shipping on any merchandise website right now.
That's right. Look at
that.
Look at these badass shirts. Come on.
Both
Come on. You can't go wrong.
Exactly. We're hoping new merch coming soon. I was scrolling through today and I was like, it's been a while. We need some new merch. So new merch coming soon. We're going to be creating some stuff over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. That's why you got to follow us on social media. And I mean, honestly, it's so good to have friends who are in the entertainment industry who feel comfortable coming on and talking about things like Jared. I feel like it was, and we push the boundary a little bit. We're very open about he is going to work during the strike and if he felt okay with that, and the balance between actor and producer and production company. So I felt like, it was a very journalistic thing that we did today.
It was. And you know what? I'm glad that we did it because it highlights that you can be in two different mindsets and be great friends and have total respect, right? We have made the decision to not do anything during the strike. He has made the decision to do things during the strike, and it hasn't affected our relationship, our friendship in any way whatsoever. We can respect each other's decisions and have intelligent grown-up conversations, and just like, guys, anybody can do it. Even more so, let's get back to the table and get this shit settled. You can have differing points of views or different sets of beliefs and still come to an agreement, still have respect, still have friendship, still shit get done. Like, come on, man. That's I was so thankful to have him on the show because it was two very different viewpoints of showing how you can make it work. So just
for sure. It's very interesting too because I really wanted to touch on the Fran Drescher situation. So I'm glad
he was very political with the way he avoided that.
Yeah, he was.
He maybe should run for office because that was a politician skirting the answer the best I've ever seen. Like he's like, if the whole acting gig doesn't work out, run for politics, my man.
Exactly. But it was a great week because we had a story that someone was mentioned in because we love her. The one, the only.
Oprah!